Commander Reed's hands trembled as he watched the tactical display aboard the Phoenix, Earth's most advanced battlecruisers. Vessels that had seemed invincible during training exercises were being methodically disassembled by precision energy beams that sliced through reinforced hulls like paper. Admiral Yamamoto's flagship, the UNS Defiant, managed to land a direct hit on one of the smaller Vanguard vessels with its railgun battery. The alien ship's shields flickered momentarily before stabilizing, seemingly undamaged. All vessels, scatter and retreat. Yamamoto's final transmission echoed across the emergency channel. Preserve what forces you can. This is not a battle we can win today. Seconds later, the Defiant erupted in a sphere of blue-white energy, leaving nothing but scattered debris. Reed swallowed hard and activated the Phoenix's experimental stealth system. The ship's hull temperature dropped rapidly as heat-masking technology rendered it virtually invisible to conventional sensors. He plotted a course for Saturn's rings. The debris field would provide additional cover while he assessed the situation. "Computer, record all sensor data on the Vanguard weapons and shields," he ordered. "We need to understand what we're fighting." Back on Earth, Dr. Chen rushed through the corridors of the Lunar Observatory, clutching her data tablet as alarms blared through the facility. The observatory's massive windows provided a horrifyingly clear view of Earth, where strange lights were already visible on the night side. The first attacks on major population centers. Dr. Chen, her assistant, Dr. Patel, caught up with her at the evacuation pods. "The last transport to Earth leaves in 5 minutes. We need to go." Chen shook her head. "The observatory's quantum computer contains all my analysis of the Vanguard communication patterns. If we leave it, we lose our only advantage." She thrust her tablet into Patel's hands. "Take this to General Williams at Pacific Command. Tell him the invaders' biology requires methane-rich environments. It's preliminary, but it might give us an edge." "What about you?" Patel asked, eyes wide with concern. "I'm taking a different route," Chen replied, heading toward the restricted section. "The prototype shuttle in Hangar E has enhanced data storage. I'm going to download everything, and then head for the backup facility in the Himalayas." As Patel reluctantly boarded the transport, Chen used her emergency clearance to access the observatory's secure server room. The quantum computer hummed softly as she initiated the download sequence. Through the reinforced windows, she watched the first Vanguard landing crafts descending through Earth's atmosphere, their hulls glowing red-hot yet seemingly unaffected by the heat of entry. The computer chimed, signaling completed transfer. Chen removed the data crystal and ran toward Hangar E, where the experimental shuttle waited, a small, nimble craft designed for rapid Earth re-entry. As she strapped herself in, the observatory's external cameras showed 3 Vanguard vessels approaching the lunar surface. "Computer, initiate stealth launch protocol," she commanded. The hangar doors slid open silently, exposing the blackness of space. Rather than using conventional thrusters that would be easily detected, the shuttle released a controlled stream of liquid oxygen, creating minimal visible signature as it drifted away from the facility. Just as the shuttle cleared the observatory's shadow, the Vanguard ships opened fire. The lunar facility didn't explode. Instead, it seemed to crystallize, the structure transforming into an iridescent material before crumbling into dust. Chen fought down panic as she engaged the shuttle's gravity drive, using the moon's own mass to slingshot toward Earth. The data crystal in her pocket contained humanity's first real insights into the invaders. She had to ensure it reached the right hands, before there were no hands left to receive it. Captain Sofia Alvarez pressed herself against the crumbling concrete wall, holding her breath as a Vanguard patrol drifted past. Their environmental suits emitted a soft, rhythmic hum that echoed through the flooded subway tunnel. Unlike human soldiers who would splash through the knee-deep water, the invaders hovered precisely 2 meters above the surface, their sensors sweeping in predictable patterns. "They never deviate," Alvarez whispered to her second-in-command, Sergeant Torres, once the patrol passed. 4-second sweeps, always clockwise, always the same height above water. Torres nodded, his face illuminated by the dim emergency lights. The scientists at the Resistance Hub think it's because water disrupts their sensory equipment. Something about molecular vibrations interfering with their scanning frequencies. The remnants of Alvarez's Marine unit, now augmented by civilian volunteers, had been hiding in Mexico City's underground network for 3 weeks. Above them, the Vanguard dome had descended to just 30 meters above street level, crushing everything taller than a 4-story building. The dome's inner surface pulsed with ethereal light as it methodically processed buildings, vehicles, and any humans unfortunate enough to be caught in its path. "Radio check," Alvarez whispered into her makeshift communicator, a modified handheld device patched into the old subway emergency system. Static crackled before a voice responded. "Hub Alpha receiving. We have movement on your position, Captain. 4 signatures approaching from the North Junction." Alvarez signaled her team to take defensive positions behind collapsed pillars and maintenance equipment. They readied their weapons, conventional firearms supplemented with experimental sonic disruptors developed from captured Vanguard technology. Instead of invaders, 4 mud-covered figures appeared, carrying an injured man on a makeshift stretcher. Alvarez recognized Dr. Mendoza, one of the research scientists who had been working on understanding the crystal structures the Vanguard deployed throughout the city. "Captain," Mendoza gasped as they lowered the stretcher. "We found something. The Eastern Processing Node. We managed to get inside." He gestured to the unconscious man. Leon touched one of their data terminals. It did something to him, but not before he downloaded this. Mendoza handed Alvarez a small device cobbled together from human and Vanguard components. Its surface displayed swirling symbols that shifted and changed as she watched. "Can you decode it?" she asked. "Partially," Mendoza replied. "It's their harvesting schedule. They're not just taking buildings and infrastructure. They're categorizing humans. Blood types, genetic markers. They're selecting specific individuals for capture rather than processing." Alvarez felt her blood run cold. "They're not just invading. They're shopping." "There's more," Mendoza continued, lowering his voice. "We found environmental data. The domes aren't just for harvesting. They're terraforming chambers, gradually altering atmospheric composition. Every day, the methane concentration increases while oxygen decreases. They're remaking Earth to suit themselves," Torres muttered. Alvarez's communicator crackled again. "Captain, we're receiving an encrypted transmission from Antarctica. It's Dr. Chen. She's established contact with Commander Reed. They found something about the invaders' physiology. Chen says it's urgent." "Put her through," Alvarez ordered, hope flickering for the first time in weeks. Chen's voice came through broken and distorted. "Sophia, we've captured intact Vanguard biological samples. Their cellular structure, it's crystalline like silicon-based life, but more complex. They literally shatter when exposed to certain sound frequencies. And there's something else. They can't regulate their internal temperature without their suits. Earth's oxygen-rich atmosphere is corrosive to them, but it's their temperature vulnerability that gives us an edge. They evolved on a world with minimal temperature variation." Alvarez looked at her team, a plan already forming. "So they've never experienced anything like Earth's seasonal extremes." "Exactly," Chen replied. "And Commander Reed has intercepted communications indicating they're completely unprepared for the volcanic activity in your region." Alvarez smiled grimly. "Then it's time they learned about Popocatépetl. How do you feel about using a volcano as a weapon, Doctor?" Commander Reed crouched behind a fallen sequoia as the Vanguard scout vessel hummed overhead, its purple scanning beam sweeping through the Northern California forest. The ancient trees provided cover that confounded the alien sensors. Organic material of such mass and complexity created what Dr. Chen had termed biological noise. "They rely too heavily on their technology," Reed whispered to the resistance fighters, accompanying him. "They don't understand that sometimes the oldest methods work best." The group had been traveling for 3 days, moving only during thunderstorms when electromagnetic interference was strongest. Their destination: a resistance stronghold hidden within Lassen Volcanic National Park, where geothermal activity masked human heat signatures. Once the scout passed, a wiry woman named Lakshmi, formerly a park ranger, led them through a creek bed. "Step exactly where I step," she instructed. "We've mapped the spots their sensors can't penetrate." Reed marveled at how quickly humans had adapted. Within months, people with no military training had learned to exploit the environment against an enemy with technology centuries beyond Earth's. At the hidden base, a repurposed research facility built into the mountainside, Reed was greeted by Dr. Emerson, a neurologist who had been analyzing captured Vanguard neural interfaces. "Their minds don't work like ours," Emerson explained, showing Reed a holographic model. "They process information collectively, with synchronized neural patterns. Individually, they're less intelligent than humans, but their hive link compensates by distributing cognitive load across multiple units." "Which explains why they falter when isolated," Reed observed. "Can we disrupt the link?" "Better," Emerson smiled, leading Reed to a makeshift lab where teenagers wearing modified gaming headsets operated strange devices. "We can hijack it." These kids were competitive esports players. Their neural plasticity and reaction time allow them to momentarily sync with Vanguard frequencies. Reed watched in amazement as 17-year-old Zach demonstrated, his fingers dancing across an interface salvaged from a downed alien craft. On the screen, a Vanguard patrol suddenly halted, confused, then began moving in circles. "It only works for about 30 seconds before their security protocols kick in," Zach explained. "But that's enough time to make them crash into each other or walk into traps." "They literally can't conceive of individual thought as an advantage," Emerson added. "Their entire evolution favored the collective over the individual." Later that evening, Reed established secure communication with Dr. Chen in the Himalayas and Captain Alvarez in Mexico. Both had similar reports. Across the globe, humans were finding creative ways to fight back. "The Australian resistance has discovered the Vanguard can't track people covered in certain clay deposits," Chen reported. "In Brazil, they're using the density of the rainforest canopy to move entire communities undetected." Alvarez's voice crackled through the secure channel. "We've started using local wildlife against them. Turns out their sensors can't distinguish between a human heartbeat and a large mammal's when we adjust our breathing patterns. We lead jaguars into their camps, and the confusion gives us opening windows for strikes." Reed shared what he'd learned about the neural hijacking. "If we could coordinate these tactics globally, we'd need something big to mask the communications," Chen said. "Their orbital network tracks all electromagnetic transmissions." "Not all," Reed corrected, remembering something from his time hiding in Saturn's rings. "I intercepted transmissions about their difficulties with extreme weather monitoring. Earth's weather patterns are more chaotic than anything on their previous conquest worlds." Alvarez's excitement was palpable even through the static. "The hurricane season is starting in the Atlantic. If we time it right, we could launch coordinated attacks under cover of the storms," Reed finished. "But we'll need to develop a communication method they can't detect." Chen laughed suddenly. "I think I know just the thing. How do the Vanguard feel about carrier pigeons and drum signals?" Reed smiled for the first time in months. "Probably the same way they feel about humans. They've underestimated both." Dr. Chen reviewed the final calculations on her tablet as the Himalayan wind howled outside the repurposed mining facility. The approaching hurricane system, now designated Medusa, had grown beyond all historical precedents, its swirling mass visible from their satellite feeds as it consumed the Atlantic. "The Vanguard's atmospheric processors have ironically made our plan possible," she explained to the assembled resistance leaders connected via secure transmission. "Their attempts to increase methane concentrations have destabilized normal weather patterns, creating a storm system of unprecedented magnitude." On her screen, meteorological projections showed Medusa's electromagnetic output, nearly triple that of any hurricane ever recorded. The storm's intense electrical activity would create the perfect communication blackout for Operation Stormbreaker. We'll have approximately 9 hours when their orbital network will be completely blind, Chen continued. Captain Alvarez has distributed the modified seismic devices to resistance cells across 6 continents. Commander Reed's team has retrofitted 17 civilian vessels for the space operation. The plan's audacity was matched only by its complexity. While terrestrial forces struck Vanguard installations worldwide, Reed would lead a space mission to destroy the aliens' primary communication relay. There's one more component, Chen said, nodding to a young woman seated nearby. Dr. Lahiri has made a breakthrough regarding the Vanguard's biological vulnerability. Lahiri stepped forward, her hand steady, as she held up a small vial containing an iridescent blue substance. This compound reacts with the methane mixture in their environmental suits, triggering a crystallization effect in their respiratory systems. It won't kill them immediately, but it will force them to retreat or suffocate. How do we deploy it? Asked a resistance leader from Europe. That's where the storm comes in, Chen replied. Medusa will carry the compound in its rain bands. Every drop that touches their external suits will begin the reaction. Preparations intensified as Medusa approached the eastern seaboard. In a hidden submarine pen beneath the ruins of Norfolk, Captain Alvarez supervised the loading of modified torpedoes onto a fleet of civilian vessels, fishing trawlers, pleasure boats, even antique sailboats. Each contained components for the seismic disruptors that would target the foundation points of the Vanguard domes. Remember, she instructed the civilian captains, you don't need to destroy the generators. Just disrupt their geometric alignment. Their technology requires perfect synchronization. Halfway around the world, Commander Reed conducted final checks on the space fleet, assembled in a hidden launch facility in the Gobi Desert. The vessels were a motley collection: mining shuttles, orbital maintenance craft, even a repurposed space tourism vehicle. Each had been stripped down and rebuilt with a single purpose: to carry enough disruptive material to the Vanguard relay station. The relay's defenses are formidable, Reed explained to his volunteer pilots, but they're optimized against conventional weapons. Our ships will be carrying something they won't expect. He gestured to crates being loaded into the vessels. Each contained thousands of simple glass marbles filled with water from Earth's deepest ocean trenches. Dr. Chen discovered that the pressure-forged water molecules from the Mariana Trench disrupt their communication frequencies. We won't be trying to destroy their relay. We'll be introducing noise into their system. Think of it as giving their entire network a migraine. As Hurricane Medusa made landfall, bringing darkness to the eastern United States, the resistance members worldwide received a simple radio message broadcast on frequencies the Vanguard considered too primitive to monitor. The storm breaks. Humanity rises. Operation Stormbreaker had begun. Commander Reed felt the Phoenix shudder as they accelerated through the upper atmosphere. Behind his vessel, 16 converted civilian spacecraft followed in tight formation, their hulls reinforced with salvaged Vanguard materials. Hurricane Medusa churned below, its massive eye now covering most of the eastern seaboard, electromagnetic pulses rippling through its clouds like neural synapses firing. Outer atmosphere in 30 seconds, his navigation officer reported. Vanguard orbital defenses appear to be focused on the storm. They haven't detected us yet. Reed nodded grimly. Maintain velocity. All ships, engage stealth protocols on my mark. The fleet had been coated with a composite material developed by Dr. Chen's team, a mixture of deep-sea bacteria and volcanic ash that absorbed radar and LiDAR signals. It wouldn't make them invisible, but it would confuse the Vanguard's automated targeting systems long enough to approach their orbital relay. 3 Vanguard destroyers holding position at coordinate Delta, the sensor operator warned. They'll have visual contact in 6 minutes. Reed opened the encrypted channel to Earth. Ground teams, status report. Captain Alvarez's voice came through first, punctuated by the sound of waves crashing against a hull. Maritime teams in position, waiting for hurricane bands to reach maximum intensity before deploying seismic devices. Other team leaders reported in sequence: mountain bases in the Alps, desert units in the Sahara, jungle fighters in the Amazon, all positioned to strike at nearby Vanguard installations the moment Medusa's electromagnetic interference peaked. As the space fleet approached the massive Vanguard relay station, a crystalline structure that resembled a geometric snowflake 20 kilometers in diameter, Reed noticed something unexpected. The station was pulsing with energy concentrations he hadn't seen in his previous reconnaissance. "They're preparing for something," he muttered, enhancing the sensor image. The energy signature matches their dome technology, but at a much larger scale. Realization struck him like a physical blow. They're planning to extend a dome over the entire eastern seaboard. That's why they're not concerned about the hurricane. They're going to contain it and use its energy. He quickly relayed this information to Dr. Chen, who responded with calculated calm. "This changes nothing. In fact, it works in our favor. If they attempt to contain Medusa's energy, the feedback from our seismic disruptors will be magnified exponentially." On Earth's surface, Captain Alvarez guided her fishing trawler through monstrous waves, the hurricane's outer bands now producing swells over 15 meters high. Such conditions would normally be suicidal, but the Vanguard vessels, designed for space and air operations, couldn't function in extreme aquatic turbulence. They never developed naval technology, Alvarez explained to her crew as they approached the first dome generator pylon, rising from the ocean floor near the Florida coast. Their homeworld had no large bodies of water. They literally don't understand how to fight at sea. Her radar operator pointed to the screen. Multiple Vanguard aircraft retreating from the storm front. They're abandoning their coastal installations. Alvarez smiled grimly. Deploy the first disruptor. A modified torpedo slipped from the vessel's launch tube, its trajectory calculated to intercept the underwater base of the pylon. Unlike conventional explosives, the disruptor contained a resonance generator tuned to the exact frequency of the Vanguard's crystalline technology. In orbit, Reed's fleet had split into 3 attack wings, approaching the relay station from different vectors. The first Vanguard patrol ships had finally detected them and moved to intercept. "All vessels, deploy countermeasures," Reed ordered. "Remember, we don't need to destroy them. Just get close enough to the relay to release our payload." As the first enemy energy beams sliced through space toward them, Reed watched Hurricane Medusa begin to glow from within, a sign that the Vanguard dome technology was activating. They were racing against time now, but time had always been humanity's ally in this war. The invaders thought in terms of efficiency and optimization. Humans understood desperation and sacrifice. Reed opened the fleet-wide channel. "For Earth." The response came back immediately from every vessel. "For Earth." Regional Commander Vex 7 of the Vanguard forces struggled to maintain neural synchronization as contradictory commands flooded the collective network. From his command center in the ruins of London, he watched the holographic display showing catastrophic failures across 3 continents. Hurricane Medusa's electromagnetic interference had severed his direct link to the orbital relay, forcing him to make decisions independently, a virtually unprecedented situation for his species. Status report. He demanded of his subordinates, their environmental suits showing signs of stress as the crystallization compound infiltrated their outer membranes. North American dome generators operating at 30% capacity, reported one officer. European network compromised. Asian network intact but detecting seismic anomalies along fault lines. Vex 7 felt something unfamiliar: uncertainty. The invasion protocol had never failed across 17 previous conquest worlds. Yet these humans, with their primitive technology and fragmented defense systems, had somehow coordinated a global counterattack that exploited weaknesses the Vanguard hadn't known they possessed. "Deploy the autonomous hunter units," he ordered. "Set targeting parameters to eliminate all resistance leadership." His second-in-command hesitated. Regional Commander Selm 12 in the Pacific sector has countermanded that order. She instructs all forces to focus on protecting water extraction facilities instead. Countermanded. Vex 7's voice modulator crackled with alien emotion. The command hierarchy is absolute. The hierarchy requires synchronization, the officer replied. Without the relay. A deafening blast interrupted them as the building's foundation shuddered. Captain Alvarez's team had infiltrated London through its ancient sewer system, placing sonic disruptors at key structural points beneath the Vanguard command center. As Vex 7 stumbled toward the emergency transport, a strange sound penetrated his suit's audio filters. Music. The humans had discovered that certain harmonies created dissonance patterns in Vanguard neural implants. The melody, what humans called Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, caused excruciating feedback in his sensory apparatus. Across the globe, the pattern repeated. Vanguard commanders, cut off from the hive mind, issued conflicting orders based on regional priorities. Some abandoned conquered cities to secure water extraction sites. Others intensified attacks on human populations, hoping to eliminate resistance through brute force. The carefully coordinated invasion fractured into dozens of localized conflicts, each following different strategic imperatives. In the Himalayan facility, Dr. Chen monitored the communications chaos with growing excitement. "It's working better than we anticipated," she told her team. Without central coordination, they're reverting to baseline directives that contradict each other. Her assistant pointed to a real-time map showing Vanguard troop movements. They're actually fighting each other in some sectors. Command units from different regions are claiming priority access to the same resources. Chen nodded. Their entire society evolved around perfect synchronization. They literally don't have cultural concepts for resolving peer-level disputes. She opened a channel to resistance leaders worldwide. Phase 2 can begin. Deploy the sound weapons at all identified communication nodes. Focus on frequencies that disrupt their neural patterns. In Mexico City, Captain Alvarez led a strike team through the partially collapsed dome perimeter. The crystallization compound carried by Hurricane Medusa had weakened the dome's integrity, creating fissures large enough for small teams to infiltrate. Their target, a Vanguard research facility where captured humans were being studied. Intelligence suggested the invaders were particularly interested in human brain structure, specifically the regions responsible for creativity and independent decision-making. "They're trying to understand how we think," Alvarez told her team as they approached the facility. "That's what frightens them most. Not our weapons, but our minds." As they prepared to breach the outer doors, Alvarez's communicator chimed with an encrypted message from Commander Reed in orbit. "Relay compromised. Vanguard reinforcement fleet detected approaching from outer system. Estimated arrival. 27 hours. Whatever you're planning, make it count. This is our only window." Commander Reed dragged himself from the wreckage of the Phoenix, his spacesuit torn and emergency oxygen warning flashing in his helmet display. The relay station had been successfully disrupted, but at devastating cost. 13 of his 17 vessels destroyed, the remaining 4 critically damaged. Through the viewport of the crippled ship, he witnessed the arrival of the Vanguard high ship Singularity. The massive vessel defied conventional physics, its structure seeming to fold inward upon itself in impossible geometries. At its center glowed the compression device, already extending anchor points toward Earth. "Chen, do you read me?" Reed rasped into his communicator, applying emergency sealant to his suit's breech. Static crackled before Dr. Chen's voice came through. "Reed, the sensors showed your ship was destroyed." "Nearly," he replied, watching as rescue pods from the surviving vessels converged on his location. "The relay is down, but they brought something worse. The compression device. It's unlike anything we've seen. The anchor points are already deploying." On Earth, Chen studied the incoming data with growing horror. The compression device operated by creating synchronized gravitational waves that would compress Earth's crust while preserving its water content. According to captured Vanguard records, the technology had been used 3 times previously on worlds that proved excessively resistant to pacification. "We need to disrupt its geometric alignment," she told Reed. Even a slight deviation should create a harmonic imbalance. With what? Reed asked bitterly. We've lost most of our ships, and the remaining ones barely have propulsion. Chen's fingers flew across her interface. The moon, she said suddenly. Their calculations don't properly account for lunar gravitational influence. If we can shift the anchor points by less than half a degree, the moon's gravity will amplify the deviation exponentially. Reed looked at the ragtag group of survivors assembling in the remnants of his ship. Miners, engineers, former tourists who had volunteered for what they knew might be a suicide mission. We'll need to get closer to the anchor points. Our remaining ships don't have the thrust for precision targeting from this distance. It's a one-way trip, his navigation officer said quietly. Reed nodded. It always was. He opened a channel to all surviving vessels. We have one final mission. The compression device must be misaligned by precisely 0.3 degrees. Each ship will target a different anchor point. Calculate minimum velocity needed for displacement, not destruction. On her screens, Chen watched as the 4 damaged vessels separated, each on a trajectory toward different equatorial anchor points. The Singularity detected the approach, deploying defensive measures, but the human ships were too small and moved too erratically for its automated systems to track effectively. Captain Alvarez, Reed transmitted to Earth, our targeting data is being sent now. If we fail, the ground teams will need to target the remaining anchor points. In Mexico City, Alvarez paused in her assault on the research facility. Understood, Commander. Ground teams are standing by. She hesitated, then added, Reed, it's been an honor. The honor was mine, he replied. Chen, are you still there? I'm here, Chen answered, her voice steady despite the tears streaming down her face. The calculations were yours. The execution is ours. Perfect teamwork. Reed smiled behind his cracked visor as his ship accelerated toward its target. Isn't that what makes us human? As the vessels closed in on their targets, Reed broadcast one final message on all frequencies, including those monitored by the Vanguard. Humanity persists. The first ship struck its anchor point at precisely the calculated angle, its impact sending ripples of distortion through the compression field. The second and third followed within seconds. Reed's vessel, the last remaining, accelerated toward the primary anchor. As the Phoenix made its final approach, the compression device began to pulse with ominous energy. The Vanguard, realizing too late what was happening, attempted to abort the activation sequence. They were 0.3 degrees too late. 1 year after the destruction of the Singularity, Captain, now Director, Sofia Alvarez stood at the podium overlooking the Memorial Garden in what had once been Central Park. The crystalline structures left behind by the Vanguard had been repurposed, transformed into monuments honoring the billions lost. At the garden's center stood a perfect replica of the Phoenix, crafted from salvaged Vanguard materials that caught the sunlight and scattered it in prismatic patterns across the gathered crowd. Today we remember their sacrifice, Alvarez said, her voice carrying across the hushed assembly. Commander Reed and his crew gave everything to ensure humanity's survival. But they also gave us something more, a future among the stars that we never could have imagined. Dr. Chen joined her at the podium, carrying a small device of hybrid human Vanguard design. The technology we've adapted from the invaders has accelerated our development by centuries, she explained. More importantly, we've established communication with 3 other species who were subjugated by the Vanguard Empire. The holographic display activated, showing representatives from these species, one aquatic with iridescent tentacles, another insectoid with compound eyes, and a third that resembled sentient crystalline formations. They call themselves the Myriadic Collective, Chen continued. For 1,000 years, they've lived under Vanguard rule, their world stripped of resources, their people treated as specimens. Earth's victory has inspired something the Vanguard never anticipated, a galactic resistance movement. Alvarez gestured to the sky where the first of Earth's new defense platforms was visible, a glistening construct combining human ingenuity with adapted alien technology. We're no longer alone, and we're no longer defenseless. The survivors from the Vanguard fleet who accepted our terms have provided insights into their empire's structure, weaknesses, and future plans. A murmur passed through the crowd as a tall figure in a modified environmental suit approached the podium. Former Regional Commander Vex 7, now designated Earth Liaison, had been among the first Vanguard to accept humanity's unprecedented offer of cooperation rather than annihilation. My species believed synchronization was strength, Vex 7 said, his translator conveying the complex harmonics of his native speech. We saw individualism as chaos, creativity as inefficiency. We were wrong. In one Earth year, your cooperative independence has achieved technological advances that took our collective centuries. He gestured to the modified suit he wore. Your scientists developed an atmospheric converter that allows me to breathe your air comfortably. Our scientists had deemed such adaptation impossible, another error born of rigid thinking. Chen activated another display showing a star map of the Vanguard Empire. 17 conquered worlds across 3 galactic arms, hundreds of outposts and processing stations, all connected by relay networks similar to the one Commander Reed had helped destroy. The fight isn't over, Alvarez told the assembly. The Vanguard will send another fleet eventually. But next time, we won't be fighting alone. As the ceremony concluded, Chen received an urgent notification on her communicator. Excusing herself, she moved to a private area where a secure transmission awaited. The holographic image that formed showed an entity from a species not yet encountered, vaguely humanoid, but with features suggesting adaptation to extreme gravitational conditions. Greetings from Proxima Centauri Outpost, the entity said. We have monitored your victory against the Vanguard with great interest. For millennia, our watchers have documented the expansion of their empire, waiting for a species with the potential to resist. You are the first to succeed. Chen's heart raced. You've been watching us. Not merely watching. Preparing. There are forces in this galaxy far older and more dangerous than the Vanguard. They have noticed you now. Threats? Chen asked. The entity's expression shifted in what might have been a smile. And allies. You've proven humanity's worth. The real question is, are you ready to take your place in the greater community of worlds? Behind her, the Liberation Day celebrations continued, humanity reveling in its hard-won victory, unaware that their triumph had opened the door to something far larger than revenge against the Vanguard. Chen straightened her shoulders. We're ready, she said. Humanity has always been ready.